Welcome. Thanks for joining us today on Retirement Solutions, the podcast. Today, we're talking about a topic that is very foundational for your financial game plan, for you and for your retirement. And if you stick with us through this podcast today, the payoff could literally mean the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional income when you're retired. So, what is the foundation of your financial game plan in retirement? Well, believe it or not, it is Social Security. And today we're going to talk about what is the best age to file for Social Security. Now, this is a really important question, and it may go against some of the things that you've been taught, or some of the things that maybe a friend or a family member has done when they claim for Social Security. And your different options to file for Social Security, including the advantages, the disadvantages, why this decision is more complicated than filing for your benefit early or late, and how this decision also impacts your IRA and 401k withdrawals, your other investment income, your Medicare premiums, and so much more. So you avoid the critical mistakes that we see so many people make by listening and getting as much information as you can. And ultimately, this could help you get every penny out of your benefits that are rightfully yours. And this should be a very important topic to you. And let us tell you why. Between you and your employer, the government, Uncle Sam, has taken up to 12.4% of every single one of your paychecks that goes into Social Security. That's right, 12.4%. And they've been doing this every single paycheck since you were a kid. And if you stopped and actually added up this money month over month, year over year, well, man, that is a heck of a lot of money. Tyson, I think we should talk about our very first paycheck when we learned about this 12.4%.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, Ryan. The I remember it like it was yesterday. We worked for this furniture delivery company, and at the time, you have to remember that um, minimum wage was $2.75. First off,
Big money.
big money, and we it was the middle of the summer. We had been asked by one of our neighbors to help deliver furniture. He owned the company, and so we had these dreams of just having this huge check. You know, we had done lots of lawn mowing and weed pulling in our neighborhood over the years, and this was the first opportunity that we had to get an official check. And so we walked through the doors. Our boss hands us his envelope, and uh, I remember opening the check and um, looking at how small it was, right? And looking at you, and then looking at my boss. And as we walked out the door, I literally said, "Who is FICA, and why are they taking all of our money?"
Yeah.
You know, because it was the first time that Social Security, that 12.4 that you just mentioned, had been pulled out of our check, and other taxes had been pulled out of our check, and we had just put our blood, sweat, and tears over the last 2 weeks, and we felt like we were getting robbed. And many of you, probably over 20, 30, 40 years, feel the same way, right?
I think why did we feel like we were getting robbed? Because one job that I remember, it was in an apartment complex, and the delivery happened to be at the very top floor. I think there were three or four floors. I can't remember
Yes, I
exactly.
remember this so well.
But the order was a leather hide-a-bed. Now, the hide-a-bed was not only just a hide-a-bed, it was a steel framed hide-a-bed, and it was massive.
Nothing light about it.
And there's no elevator. I mean, this is the days before, ADA, and no elevator in this. It's just all stairs, middle of the summer, and we are just sweating. And as we're going around these corners, it's like we're trying to make sure that the height of bed doesn't pop out, and we're, just fighting this couch all the way up. We get up to the very top floor. And as we turn the corner, I mean, we're just struggling and stressing here. As we turn the corner, we hear this terrible noise. The noise was the sound of leather ripping on this metal.
It's on the corner of this metal railing because we had got to the top successfully, right?
Oh, we opened that leather hide bed all the way up. So of course, Now we have to take it all the way down, put it back in the truck. And if you think that FICA was bad, when we showed our boss and he's like, well, I'm going to have to take this out of your paycheck.
Yep.
We stinking paid for a leather hide bed out of both of our paychecks in addition to FICA. So, Uncle Sam and our poor day up there in that hot, sweaty day. I still don't like hide beds to this day.
I feel like almost every paycheck we got money docked for breaking something or damaging something. And, yeah, so that's why some of you feel like, "Hey, I've been putting this money aside for a long time." But on the flip side of it, Social Security is the foundation of everyone's retirement. And it's a good thing you have it because over 50% of everybody who's retiring, that's their only paycheck.
Yes.
And, um, it gets adjusted for inflation. It may not get a full inflation adjustment every time, but it's a solid um, income stream that everybody can count on. And today's show is all about making sure that you wring every nickel out of Social Security because if you made an above average income, uh, the money that you're pulling out of Social Security, if you do this right, could end up being well into the seven figures amount by the time both you and your spouse pass. So there's so much money at stake. And we can help you to get an additional six figures in most cases out of Social Security that you never thought that you could. And so, you know, that's why we're setting the table today to make sure that you understand this. You listen to the end. We've got an example that we want to share with you throughout this podcast. Social Security is going to be the most important decision that you will make as you get into your retirement years. And so you cannot mess this up. You only get the chance to make this decision once. So you better make sure you're doing it right the first time.
Tyson, there's been all kinds of research done on this, but the majority of Americans make big mistakes when it comes to filing for Social Security. The studies that we reviewed, and these are mainly from Lawrence Kotlikoff, he is a economist that spent basically his entire career on just studying Social Security and what the effects are and how poor decisions. But these are his numbers. He says Americans lose out on an average of $111,000 in lifetime income. Now, this was before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, after COVID, the new studies suggest that this number is actually much higher. It's $182,000. Think about this. 111,000, 182,000, that is not chump change. That's not lunch money. This is a lot of money. And so how and when you claim your benefits really make a big difference. And Tyson, we like to talk about that there's three layers.
Yes.
Let's talk about these three layers when it comes to the problems with how you file for Social Security.
Starting with number one, we already have been talking about it. Filing for your benefits, it's complicated, it's confusing. It's not just as simple as deciding, am I going to take my Social Security early or am I going to take it late? In other words, am I going to start taking Social Security at 62 or am I going to wait till 70 because every year you push into the future, you get an extra 8% bump in your income that you wait for Social Security, and it can be prorated based off of even if you take it intra-year or something like that. Um, but the problem is it's not just taking Social Security at face value. It's also looking at your IRA. It's looking at your 401k withdrawals. It's looking at other investment income. It's even thinking about it from a Medicare perspective, because if you take too much money too soon after you retire, then it can actually double your Medicare premiums for a few years. And as a result, what we like to say is if you ignore these things, you ignore them at your own peril. And so that's layer number one.
And I want to look at these latest numbers on Medicare because I think that some people are like, I don't understand how you can increase your Medicare premiums. I thought they were all the same. And obviously it depends on what your income is and what your
Sure.
brackets are, but I just want to go over these numbers. So if you make $103,000 or less, and that's why most people think there's only one premium, is because a lot of people make less than 103,000,
Right.
then your premium is going to be $174.70. if you're single. If you're married, you can go up to 206,000. But this is where it really starts to ratchet up. Um, for example, let's say that you were in an upper income category, that you're married, and that your income is between 322,000 and $386. Well, your Medicare premium is not 174.70; it's $454.20 per month. So why does that happen? Well, that could have been because someone took a Roth conversion. That could have been someone took out, they sold a piece of real estate and all of a sudden they had that extra income. This is a lot of times people think, okay, this is not only, just super wealthy people. This could be people disposing of assets or taking withdrawals from their IRAs and 401ks. These are areas that's a more than a double. Now, the highest number is 594,000. This is the same or $594 a month. This is the same Medicare, same benefit that someone's receiving, but these are means tested, meaning they're going to look at the income and say, hey, if someone makes more income, they're going to pay more premiums. And this is one of those areas that makes, we're just talking about this because it points out that it is complicated and it is confusing. It's not some one size fits all.
Yeah, great insight, Ryan. And putting numbers to that is a big deal because I think most people have no clue, first off, that your Medicare premiums can change based off of how much income you make.
Yep.
But secondly, most people don't think about, they just think, hey, this is all my money. I'm going to take what I need when I retire and I'm going to live the lifestyle of my dreams in my retirement years so I can do whatever I want. But you've got to do this the smart way. You don't want to take you don't want to barely push yourself over a means tested limit for Medicare. You don't want to push yourself barely into the next tax bracket that really changes how much money you've got to pay to Uncle Sam. All of this, we've done this thousands of times. You only have the chance to retire once, and we want to make sure that you understand what the ramifications are. And we can tell you all kinds of stories about people who've come in too late to make these decisions, and we don't want that to happen to you. So that's number one, filing for your benefits. I hope that you understand and see that it's complicated, it's confusing. Second layer that we go deep in is you have to coordinate this decision with your spouse or significant other. Again, if you ignore the spouse decision for Social Security, most often you're leaving uh, benefits on the table, money on the table that you could be taking. Now, there's a lot of different pieces to this. A lot of people will be like, well, my spouse has passed. Well, do you understand that you have the choice between your benefit and your spouse's benefit, and you better be taking the higher benefit? Do you understand if you lived or if you were married to somebody for at least 10 years, then you got a divorce, that you have access to their benefit or your benefit? And it gets even more complicated if you're now remarried. And there's all of these different scenarios that can make a difference that you may or may not know. For instance, I have a client that she was married to the same great family, married for over 20 years to the same spouse. Then some things happened and they ended up getting divorced. And when we walked through all these scenarios, he had gotten remarried. She had never gotten remarried. She had no clue that all of these different options were available to her. And so she was in great shape. She was just working part-time as a ski instructor. And as we looked at all the scenarios, she could continue to do what she was doing part-time, take her ex-spouse's benefit and let hers continue to grow until age 70. And then she dropped her ex-spouse's and started taking hers. That was the best benefit scenario for her. And it made a huge difference in her overall income. She didn't have to talk to her ex-spouse, nothing like that. And Ryan, we've got another example that why don't you walk through a little bit with, we're going to obviously change the names here, but this is with a married couple, and to see the difference between in real dollars, what this example meant to them in their retirement years.
Tyson, one of the things that we're really proud of is that we've helped over 50,000 families make an
Yes.
informed decision on how and when to claim their Social Security benefits. And, that's that's there's when you think about the average, as according to some studies, leave an average of $182,000 on the table. We wanted to show you an example of what we mean by this. So we recently had a husband and wife come in, and they wanted to find out, okay, what's going to be the best way to file for Social Security. Now, as we go through these numbers, it's just important to keep in mind that every scenario is a little bit different. So your age may be different than this couple, and there's literally thousands of combinations. And so what we want to do is we want to dial this in. So here's how we approach this. First of all, we not only look at the Social Security, but we look at all of the other retirement assets that they have. Do they have a pension? Do they have real estate income? Do they have business income? Do they have other income coming in from investments? What does the 401k and IRA look like? And we use all of that benefit information to make an informed decision on how to bring this all together. So the husband, at the time that he comes in, is 59 years old. He wants to retire at 62. And the wife is 56 years old. So she's about 3 years younger. Now, when we looked at Mike's Social Security, if he started at 62, his monthly benefit would be $2,230. If he waits all the way until 70, there's an automatic 8% guaranteed increase every single year. Plus, you may get some cost of living adjustments during that time. But his monthly benefit at 70 is $3,949. That's a big difference, 2230 or 3949. Now, for the wife, she had also worked, and her benefit amounts, if she started at 62, were $1,616. If she waited until 70, it would be 2,846. Now, when they came in, their plan was that they wanted to just take it as soon as they could get a check, because complicating factor number three in this whole Social Security uh, area is, what's the state of Social Security? You're hearing about the Social Security Trust Fund that's going to run dry. We used to think, oh, there's no way, there's no way. Well, this is serious. The government's got to fix something with this, or there's going to be a reduction in benefits. It's not going to go away, but it is going to, you could have a reduction of 10, 15, 20% of your benefit if they don't make some adjustments. So, this husband and wife, they're like, okay, we're just going to take it early. Well, that was not the best decision. Okay. So when we looked at all of the other assets they had, we looked at their income plan. We're like, okay, we can still help you retire at 62, and the spouse is going to be younger than that. She's going to be about 59. But just, the bottom line on this, when we looked at their scenario, what we decided to do is, and the recommendation is, we said, okay, let's go ahead and have the wife take her Social Security at 62, because if she takes it at 62, that gives them some income. It helps with their income plan. And then what we want to do, though, is we want to have the husband wait until he gets all the way until 70. The reason why is because it's more likely that men are going to die sooner than women. Okay, so when one of you dies, the surviving spouse receives the largest of the two checks. The smallest check goes away. But in this case, the wife could start taking some income, 1626 at age 62 and 2 months. So that gave the family some income. Mike delays his, so there's no benefit coming in. Mike turns his on at 70. And then when the husband eventually passes away, this is going to give a higher income check than if the husband would have started early. So what's the bottom line in all this? I know there's a lot of numbers there. The bottom line is significant. Okay. The bottom line, by doing it in this method, gives this husband and wife an additional $207,834. Tyson, what would you do with an extra 207,000?
It's crazy, right? And that's just with Social Security. Think about that. $207,000 extra in your pocket because you came and helped have somebody who is an expert help you to understand what the pitfalls are, first off. And then secondly, how to navigate those pitfalls to ensure you get the most of what you're doing. And that's just the start. That's just with Social Security. We help you to maximize and put as much money back in your pocket with taxes. So you're paying the least amount of taxes, not only with Social Security, because we haven't even talked about that you can pay up to, you can pay taxes on 85% of your benefits check. That doesn't mean that it's an 85% taxation on your benefits, but it does mean that if you're getting, let's say, between a husband and spouse, $4,000, that 85% of that $4,000 could be taxed at your regular marginal tax rates, it becomes a big deal. And then we help you to minimize your taxes on your IRA and your 401k. We want to make sure that you're maximizing your income in all ways. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to pass on to your kids or your favorite charity the things that are closest to your heart, the maximum dollars. All of this becomes something that you need to think about. It becomes something that you need to plan for. This is not just winging it. You've contributed a small fortune to your Social Security. You've contributed a small fortune to your IRA and 401k. And you've got to make sure that the right strategy is in play to maximize every single dollar that you get back and put in your pocket.
I'm going on vacation, man. I'm going on vacation. That extra $207,000, if that was my scenario, going on vacation, spending time with kids and grandkids.
And that's a lot better than paying extra in Medicare, right? Or paying extra in taxes on your Social Security that doesn't give you anything.
Well, Tyson, like you said, this is just one aspect of your financial plan. Let's just use some round numbers. Let's say that you were this couple and you're able to optimize your Social Security payout by 200,000.
Yes.
You also have a 401k and some IRAs that you're able to minimize the taxes by 500,000 by simply having a plan on how you're going to coordinate all this together. And so now you've got, just in Social Security and taxes, you've got $700,000 in additional value. Now, markets are at all-time highs at the time that we're recording this podcast. You know, stock market's doing really well. We're telling a lot of people right now, hey, lock in some of these profits, protect and preserve what you're doing. And let's say that by having a risk strategy, you were able to minimize your risk and protect $300,000 that you would have lost in the next market crash because you were just riding this thing and hoping the party continues on. 200, 500, 300, that's $1 million extra in value. Let's say you saved a total of $1 million for retirement, which would be awesome. Well, you just made your 1 million work like 2 million. And that's the type of power that comes with planning for retirement, not just saying, well, this way my brother took Social Security, so that's going to do it. And I guess I can't do anything about the stock market because I'm just going to let this ride in. I guess I can't do anything about the taxes on my IRA 401k. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, and one of the great things, Ryan, you mentioned that we've helped over 50,000 families make an informed decision about Social Security. This is so important to us because this all started with, we wanted to help our parents. Our parents came to us even before we were in this industry, and our dad said, hey, what do I do with Social Security? You guys are the numbers guys. And we went back and said, well, let's go talk to a financial advisor. And that financial advisor had no clue what to do with Social Security. The far and vast majority of all financial advisors still don't know how to do anything about Social Security. That's one of the reasons why we made it our mission. When somebody comes in and sees us at any of our 11 offices, that the first discussion point is always Social Security. That's what is important to everyone because everyone has access to Social Security. Everyone wants to understand how this works. And you owe it to yourself to really understand how this all fits into the rest of your plan. If you're talking to a financial advisor that's really good at everything else, but that doesn't understand Social Security, you could be leaving, just like this couple that we talked about, over $200,000 just on Social Security on the table. Most financial advisors just put your money in the market and say, we're going to grow your money. As Ryan just mentioned, this is more than just growing your money. It's taking the resources you have and looking at the entire picture and ensuring that you make the most of everything. And as Ryan talked about, $1 million can be $2 million. We basically, in most situations, whatever amount you have, we can double the amount that you can utilize in retirement because we look at your income stream, because we look at how to maximize Social Security, because we minimize the risk and the fees that you pay that with the money that you have invested, because we can help you with taxes. All of this plays a role that can be a game changer for how and when you can retire. A lot of our clients are surprised when we tell them, hey, you can retire 2 or 3 years earlier than you thought you could because of the things that we do. A lot of people are surprised when we tell them, hey, look, this is the additional money that you're going to get from all of your sources that end up making the difference of you being able to retire or not being able to retire. There's so much at play here, and you'd owe it to yourself to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time.
Before we wrap up here, I think one good thing to talk about is you may be sitting here thinking, okay, well, how do I get this information for myself? What would my plan look like? And what is this experience like? I just want to talk a little bit about the experience. First of all, like as you mentioned, Tyson, we've got 11 offices in Utah, Idaho, and the state of Washington. And it's really simple. You can give us a phone call. You can talk with one of our advisors. They're going to help you walk through this scenario. Here's what you're going to need to put together. Number one is you need to go to Social Security and get your Social Security statement. You can get that at ssa.gov. If you have a copy of a recent statement that they've mailed to you, that's great, but they're really not mailing copies to the majority of you anymore. So you can go to ssa.gov, just create a username and password, log in, and you can see the benefit. If you're married, you can also pull that statement down. This is a benefit statement that you can pull down, and that's the first piece. Then the other piece that you want to gather is what are all the other assets that you have for retirement? Your IRAs, your 401ks, maybe you have a Roth, maybe you have a pension, maybe you've got some real estate. What are those things? Put those all together. It doesn't take you very long. And then you can call in, they'll schedule an appointment with you. And you can sit down with somebody and, you've done whatever you've done for your entire career. You don't have to try to figure this out by yourself on the internet. You can sit down with somebody that's literally part of the team that's helped over 50,000 people make an informed decision. And there's just a conversation. And here's the best part. It doesn't cost anything. This is completely free. We do it because what we found is, as we were going through that journey, like you mentioned, Tyson, with our parents, very few financial advisors knew anything about Social Security. And so we wanted to fix that. That's one of the unique advantages that we do here at B.O.S. Retirement Solutions and Advisors is we help give good information to good people so that you can make great decisions. This conversation, once you gather that, the team will figure out what is it that what are your goals? What are your dreams? What do you want to have happen? And then we combine that together in the B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint. And that blueprint's one page. It's really simple. And our team's going to give you a recommendation on how and when is the best way. It doesn't cost you anything. Just give us a call or click on the link where you're listening to this, and you'll be able to set up a time. Tyson, what are just some of the things that as people come in, what do we hear over and over again, specifically when it comes to when they're empowered on Social Security and they have a new vision?
Well, the first thing is they usually say, I had no idea that this was even possible, right? Because all they've ever heard is just take it at 67, take it early, take it late, whatever those simple rules of thumbs are that are not really necessarily what you need to do. Secondly, they will say things like, this has completely changed my outlook on how and when I can retire. And, my mom, I was worried because my mom passed early, and now you've empowered me to understand how this could work in my favor in case that same thing happens to me versus if something didn't happen. Lastly, they usually say, I love that this all has to do with an overall plan. It's not just Social Security on its own.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key to all of this, is using the B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint. And the simplicity that comes along with the B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint is the difference maker in making your money last as long as you do. And so we love to say, and we'll end today with this, retiring successfully today, it doesn't happen by accident. It starts with a plan, and that plan is the B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint. Click on the link, get your journey started. We'd be happy to take you to the next step like we have with so many others. Thanks, and have a great week.